Hello everyone. Today we have Elmer Glick with us from Starway Roofing Company. Uh, Elmer has been part of BNI for a very long time, and thank you so much, Elmer, to be part of this Grit Meets Growth chapter. We are so excited to have you, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation so graciously. We would love to know more about you. What you've been doing? What's your journey? How did you start with Starway Roofing, and a lot more about you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it and very gracious for that. So with Starway Roof Systems, so we actually we were started as J&E Structures. I was 21 years old, and it's a partnership
Oh,
company, family run business. My
hmm,
my brothers and I run the business. My brother was 19 when we started, and that was
okay.
uh, that was 9 years ago. So it's been quite the journey, and we started as J&E Structures, and have since rebranded. Actually, about a year and a half ago, we rebranded to Starway Roof Systems, and just because we felt like that's much more of a brand that we could build around, and
Yeah.
become really a household name in the community. And it's been a journey, but it's been fun and exciting.
I was looking at the website. It definitely Starway Roofing, the way you've designed the logo and the website, it definitely seems like something which you're trying to build up as a brand. Uh, I like this name much better for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what like most of our clients do. Were like actually the cool thing is a lot of a lot of our clients actually thought we got bought out. They were like, "You guys got bought by a big
Oh,
company," and
hmm,
they were asking if we got bought by a big
hmm,
company or if that's why we rebranded. And so it was kind of cool to be able to say like, "No, that we just rebranded, still same company, same owners." But I think having a professional brand really gives off the persona more so like you're a
hmm.
professional company, like you're a well-run company, rather than if it's like you know the typical contractor logo is like having a
Yeah.
roof over the name, usually your initials, which is what we were. We
Hmm.
had our initials, but having more of a name that matters, a name that there's a reason you have that name, and like people are really able to get behind it. And we've seen like people ask us for shirts, like people really kind of like we've kind of felt like
Hmm.
we've been able to have some fans in the community. Like people will like, vouch
Hmm.
for us, and so it's been sweet.
I was going to ask you if Starway Roofing System, is it part of a franchisee group? Because it felt that way. Like we've been working with, I think, Superior House. It's a franchisee company, Superior Roofing. There's another one which is Bumble Roofing. That's a franchisee company. So I thought this is also part of franchisee group. But that's great to hear. That's your own brand which you've built. And I mean, the rebranding part is a great touch. I'm sure that it's gonna succeed, and eventually you should be able to start your own franchises of your own. I'm sure a lot of people, since you've mentioned that people are vouching for you, I'm sure there'll be a lot more people who would want to take the franchisee and carry forward the legacy which you guys are building.
Yeah, that's a great point. And funny enough, you're like the second person in 2 days that mentioned that to me. So it's kind of ironic, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think the things are moving in the right direction if people are feeling the way.
yeah.
Cool. So, how long you've been part of BNI?
So I joined BNI in 2022. So it'll be
Hmm.
3 years since I've been in BNI. Yeah,
Okay.
and we have since so I joined a chapter, and then I left that chapter and helped start a new chapter, and we put another person in the chapter that I had been in. So
Hmm.
we've really had success. Our first year was when we had our most success in BNI, and I
Hmm.
think BNI really is a lot about like how much you put in. Like if you're putting in the effort to meet with people and do those one-to-ones. But in our first 15 months that we were part of it, we closed like $330,000 of business
That's a
from
great revenue.
BNI.
Yeah, I think you must be doing a lot of things right. I mean, if you want to just give, so like we are pretty new to it. I mean, it's not been more than a year for us. So if you would want to give us some tips, like what are the two things which I should, let's say, do to crack or to grab most out of BNI? What would those be?
Well, I mean, I think like for what you're doing with BNI is really good. You know, reaching out to people all around the world, and asking them to do like podcasts and just do one-to-ones. I think that is probably like a big thing because for like a marketing business, more of a remote company, you have that ability to just reach out to people.
Mm,
Where from roofing aspect, like I could, but I'm obviously not gonna you know, a person in Texas isn't going to hire a roofer from Pennsylvania, unless
yeah.
that like there's a lot of systems or franchising, which
Mm,
at this point in our journey that wouldn't work. Um, so I think like really I think there's two things. Yeah, the two things that I would say are really big is obviously connecting with people, and the
mm,
second thing I think is huge is more of a like spiritual kind of thing is that like are you attending BNI with an abundance mindset of like I want to help the people that
mm,
are in my chapter, or are you attending the BNI from I'm looking to see how much I can get, like, and I think that kind of really shows the difference in what when you look at people who are successful, people who are not successful. Typically it's like that mindset, like they may be attending it more of like what can I get out of BNI? What can I take from BNI rather than like what can I give to BNI and to the not necessarily
mm.
even just to the BNI organization, but what can I give? What value can I bring to my fellow chapter members?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that one. I mean, one thing which BNI has given us a lot is the discipline part. Like, being the young entrepreneurs, I think we were quite a mess in general. Like if we get an idea, we are on it immediately. We don't, let's say, build out a process and do certain things. But BNI, because we need to turn up every Tuesday morning and it has to be in a certain way, it gives you that kind of discipline. So that every week, that kind of um, nudging actually helped us. It helped us being disciplined at other parts of things as well, and not just at BNI. So this was one thing for us, and I'm sure that with the two things which you have given us is something which we would do. Maybe we are not doing it in that way, particularly especially the second part of the spirituality thing. I think that makes sense. That mindset actually helps. And I was having a podcast, I think the last podcast only. The lady mentioned that if you have the correct mindset over there, and if you're able to give, people remember, like they'll remember you for a long time. And when they are in need, they'll reach out to you. You'll be the first one in the on the mind.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agrees. Very well said. Um, and I 100% agree with the discipline part and the accountability part of it as well. It can be
Hmm.
one of the things where if you don't have that accountability to go like look for referrals to put that effort in, and you don't have that you know if it, there's just if without some type of accountability structure in place. I
Hmm.
heard this amazing quote just yesterday. Had somebody say this to me, so I didn't make this up, but I'm stealing it or using it anyways. And the quote is, "You don't fall to the or you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems and processes." And so,
Hmm.
what I take away from
That's
that,
a
even
good
even
one.
from even from BNI, is like if you have goals to do, whatever the revenue amount is in your, that you want to do in your business, but you don't
Hmm.
have, that like what's the systems and process? Like, do you have a process? Are you getting up, going to BNI every whatever your weekday morning is that you're going to BNI? And so, it's just in all areas of of your life that can be applied. I was just telling my wife, last night as well. It's like in our marriage, like we're not going to rise to the level of our goals for our marriage. We're going to fall to the level of our systems and processes. Like, what for processes do we have in place to make sure that we're having date
Hmm.
nights, that type of thing. So,
Yeah,
it's I thought it was cool, and it goes very much with that discipline and accountability thing.
100% yes. That's a great one to use in the personal life as well. When you mentioned the quote, I wasn't able to relate to the personal level, but I think it really goes hand in hand. So,
Yeah, I totally
like,
agree.
yeah, 100%. So, one thing which I wanted to ask in your line of business, the roofing industry, the roofing and repair part. what are the common challenges which you see? I mean, things uh, which is very common in an industry, and I'm sure that you'll be able to handle it very well because your experience that's it's a old company. So what are the few challenges?
Yeah, so um, I feel like the biggest challenges when it comes to like having a roofing, like have like so you're actually on somebody's home, like you're actually doing work that's on somebody's home, which is, obviously always challenging. I mean, you have
Mm,
that aspect of, you have to communicate and people, it's most people, it's like their biggest asset is, their home. And so the challenges we face obviously are like weather, people, as always any business is typically a people
mm,
problem. And so really just how do we put the systems and processes in place that we can deal with that, and the training, and making sure that our people are, have the same, are buying into the same vision that we have for the company. And how can we get everybody on board with that. So um, yeah, those are definitely some of the challenges,
mm,
that we face on a day to day level. Is just, typical. Most things come down to a people challenge, and how can you lead through that, and how can you train people and coach people instead of always, like a lot of contractors tend to have this mindset of like, if I don't do it, then it's not going to be done right. And, a
mm.
lot of that is just simply because, we're not
You
trained to
don't
be good
trust in,
coaches and good trainers.
and you don't trust your team enough.
Exactly. You don't trust your team enough. Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
So,
There's
like, do
this thing of
you
like trust but
face?
verify.
Hmm.
Yeah. Go
No,
ahead.
please go on. Please go on.
Yeah. So like, you trust but verify. I mean, you have to trust your team. You also have to verify, like, I think there's a level of just like throwing somebody into the fire without proper training and coaching, um,
Mm,
and without, actually check, like, is the work being done right, without doing it in a micromanaging way. um,
mm.
it's a I mean, it's one I don't have figured out, but working on it, and have big goals for 2025. And so I know, like, there's definitely levels that I have to grow as a leader in that
Yeah.
aspect.
And I think especially in the service business, the big thing is the hospitality part. I'm sure there are a lot of companies who are able to do the service part, but how you make the people feel, like if your client are satisfied with you, irrespective of whatever happened in between, I think that's a big thing. If you're able to make your client happy, I think you have done your job very well.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with that. People don't typically, like, they remember how you make them feel and how your company makes them feel. How did they feel when they called in initially? How did they
Mm,
feel after they signed their contract? Like, did they still feel like they were a valued customer? People don't necessarily
mm,
remember. I mean, they'll remember the roof if there's a problem, but if the roof is all fine, but what they really remember is like that experience of how they felt while you were
mm.
working on their property. And I think a big thing is communication. Is just,
Yeah.
do you have the proper communication set up that people aren't just, that they might not have any idea when you're coming, or, like, are you communicating with them on a regular basis to, make sure that, like, that's one of the things that we
Mm,
really pride ourselves on. Is like, we want our Google reviews to say like they were very well informed, and they were, kept up and communicate. They were very well communicated with throughout the entire process. And so, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge in the service business. But there's obviously there's tools now, like technology, that's making it, easier to solve those problems if you're willing to be an adapter, and a adapter into
mm.
technology.
No, that's true for sure. And I think technology is a big part of it. And for example, we are using this platform Riverside. It's a tech product. We're using it because it helps us um, get rid of the extra effort the designer has to do. It will create the reels on its own. It will create the video on its own. So a lot of thing is taken care by AI, and we don't need to put a lot of brain of itself. So I think technology is really changing. And a lot of time it helps you save those dollars as well. You can replace some of the human efforts, which can be, let's say, human can make like mix. I mean, everyone can make a mistake, right? But when you're trusting something
Yeah.
like a platform, a lot of time they save you that kind of dollars. It gives you instant result. So at least we are very pro technology.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I can only imagine in a marketing like as a marketing, as a marketing firm, you have to be up to date on, all those
Yeah.
like technology tools and what you're using. And
Mm,
I do think that like the early adopters of technology of AI, like those, I mean, when I say like we're not really early at this point in AI, like that was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, probably
mm,
when it would have been like considered early. But at the rate it's moving now is like, you better be on board or
mm.
you're way back,
Yeah, that's true. If I'll give you an example, like we were doing ads for one of the roofing company. I think they're based out of LA. So like they started with us, they had no idea, and like I think we reached out to them via BNI itself. So they were not running any sort of ads, and we started. They grew their business, I think 5x, 6x because they were not doing any sort of advertisement. It was 100% referrals, word of mouth, sort of those things. And eventually they started their franchises. I think they've sold 10 of their franchises till date. So, because
Wow.
they started something and a lot of things were based out of AI, the website was based out of AI, the communication was generated by chat GPTs, sort of those things. So we trained their models and all. So big thing about that is because they adopted it and because they were not aware of it, I think that made a huge difference to them. So, uh, and not just in marketing, I'm sure that adopters of AI would actually help them generate a better experience. And that also goes with respect to the communication. So let's say and things can go south, especially in the roofing part. Let's say if your staff is not working for due to some reason, it's raining, or you have slippery roads, logistics issues, something of that sort. But if you're able to inform them immediately, having some sort of process set up, uh, I think your client would be very happy because you inform them on time and not at the 12th hour that, okay, this is something which is not going to happen for the next 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, that's well, I got to say that's very impressive. Just what you said about the roofing company in LA is
Mm,
it's a really good job there. And I 100% agree. People like, whenever I I try to put myself in the situation of, I try to put myself in a situation where I have to shop for some, home improvement stuff occasionally, just because I want to see like, what's the experience like when nobody communicates? Because most contractors don't communicate. Most contractors
oh,
don't call you back, and
mm,
it's frustrating, So like when I'm trying to buy something, whatever it might be, and nobody calls me back, I see the frustration that I experience, and I'm like, we
mm,
cannot have that same thing happen in our company. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. It's one of them things that is you just have to be an adopter of it, and you have to be willing to not always do things the way that we always did things, and not have that mindset
mm,
when it comes to technology. And even if there are problems, like, are you communicating to the customer? Are you like, in we live in a world where it's instant gratification, and people are able to order something and have it made the same day, depending on where you live. And so it's just, in that day and age, it seems like the service based businesses are, especially like
mm,
contracting, roofing, is still quite a bit behind. There's just a lot of room right now to grow in that space.
that makes sense. So for you, like Starway Roofing, so if you have to break down the, let's say, revenue split, how much would be the word of mouth or the referral part of it? Like what percentage, if you don't mind it sharing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I don't have the exact numbers. I could pull them up, but I want to say like word of mouth, we're around like the 35% mark of word of mouth. And we were much higher. We've doubled our revenue in the last 2 years. Both years we doubled our revenue. And
It's
so,
awesome.
we have taken our marketing spend is considerably higher now than, what it was
Mm,
2 years ago. And
mm,
we also like wouldn't be able to necessarily keep pace and, keep enough leads without like spending quite a bit in marketing. So I want to say like we're like around that 35% of referrals, like repeat customers, referrals, people telling their neighbors, that type of stuff.
that's a
And then
great number. Yeah, that's a great number. And good thing about this number is the older you grow, this number usually increase. A lot of new people will get to know about you. And these things are contagious. I mean, if I tell two people, those ideally two people should tell two more. So it's going to exponentially increase. And you are at a great percent of 35% right now. I'm sure that probably in, let's say, 3 to 5 years, this number would be around 50 to 60%. And eventually, this is going to be a self-sustenance thing, and you won't probably need marketing spends because you will have enough referrals, enough word of mouth to keep the business running all seasons, all months of the year.
Yeah, and obviously that's the goal. I mean, I I, I tend to think a little bit in terms of um, I want that to keep growing, but I also want the business to continue to grow like
Mm,
crazy. And so, in order for the
mm,
business, if there's a certain size of revenue that we say we're going to cap out at, I think there's definitely that aspect. But I think if we continue to, grow by 50, 60, 70% per year, like I think
mm,
that's when it becomes tougher to necessarily have that everything in like
yeah.
word of mouth and referrals, and you're entering new markets maybe, and you're like that's when you really have to kind of continue that ad spend. But yeah, I mean, 100%, it
Mm.
should be a boots on the ground approach to marketing and generating leads. Which I have a question for you. Like, have you seen any of your clients successfully implement, like referral programs, or what have you seen people be successful with?
So when you ask about the referral programs, about the retention of the current customer and generating new customer from the current customer only, right? Not the new acquisition of people looking for it. So when we look at the audience, we break them into three parts. Part one is the new people who are looking for you. They have no idea about you, your brand. Part two is people who know about you, but they haven't used your service. Part three is people who have used your service, but they might have not engaged with you for a very long time. Now, running the campaigns for these three things are very separate. A lot of clients have seen success with different things. For example, the recent example which I'm giving to you, that brand is much more focusing towards franchisees now. Now there's another one. I think it's specific roof restoration. Now that one shuts down the campaigns for 2 months just because they are overbooked. So they have so many, and they are into industrial roofing. But the idea over there, apart from the normal roofing, is also the retention of the current customer. For example, you can do email marketing. So let's say you have a list of around 500 or 1,000 emails. We do marketing in a way that we talk to those people, okay, because you have been a customer, and if you, let's say, refer to somebody else, or if you have somebody, or if you want to get your home fixed again, we'll give you 20% discount, or the referral will get another 30% discount. We can work on revenue share model, something of that sort. So we try to engage with the users. If not with anything of like this, we can also ask them to, if you can just rate on Google Ads. So that will improve my rating. If you like our work, give us the feedback, give us the rating, sort of those things as well. So that keeps the engagement on. And we also try to keep the frequency a bit low. Otherwise, no, I mean, they don't want to talk to us on a daily basis, right? But if I'm able to hit
Yeah,
them once a month, or let's say once in 2 months, I think that's a sweet spot. So those are things
yeah,
which
yeah.
actually
People
has
people don't
worked.
even people don't want to. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. People don't want an email every week. Is that kind of what you're saying? You'll probably see your unsubscribe rate go up. quite a bit if you are sending too
Yeah.
many emails or
Hmm.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the referral program thing is, something that we're trying to make sure that we're like, like how are we able to reward our clients if they refer their neighbor or their family member, or
Hmm.
and because I mean those are typically you'll already have a warm introduction per se to the client
Yeah.
that's looking for a roof, and they like you're already the favorite, even if they shop it around, and you might not be
Hmm.
the cheapest price, but they're like, well, we really want to work with them because you know my friend said they're a great company, and
Nice. So, like my last podcast with her was with an interior designer. Now she mentioned that, let's say, if somebody referred her via BNI, many a times the discussion and pricing is something which they don't have because that person is getting a referral from a trustworthy person. And usually, when I'm referring to someone, I'll say, okay, I have worked with her. I've known her for a very long time. She's great at what she's doing. Now, if somebody is talking about you, that person knows, okay, I don't need to go anywhere else. I know that person will do a good job because I've heard good things about that person from, let's say, my friends or family, somebody which I know. So that trust factor comes along. And which is why even if I have to pay a premium for that, I'm okay doing that because I'm trusting you and I don't need to, let's say, talk to 10 other people, figure out who is the cheaper one, and so on. I don't want to go through that trouble because I have the trust, I'll pay the premium to it.
yeah, no, that's very interesting, and really good insight in that, you know, um, just even just putting a value on those BNI referrals that you get, and how much that can help, your business.
Yeah, that's true. So, since you've been part of BNI for a long time, do you have any interesting story about BNI which you would want to share? Something funny, something which you remember on top of your mind, maybe some client experience
Yeah,
which was funny.
yeah. Let me just I'm gonna have to think about that one a little bit. I
Even
feel
the
like
client experience. Yeah, please go on. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. I feel like one of the things that and I don't know if this is necessarily the story you're looking for, but one of the things that I have valued most about BNI, being a part of BNI is just the relationships that you make, like that aren't monetized. Um,
Hmm.
with when it comes to um, the members in your chapter and how they can become you can become really good friends with them, and they, you know, outside of BNI, and
Yeah.
uh, I think that's the thing. I know it's not a funny story or anything like that, but I think like just talk like if there's somebody listening to this that's like considering like I would say you want to consider more than just the monetary value that you're going to get out. Yeah, you have to put some time in, but that's
Hmm.
relationships. You have to put time in to build relationships. But I have some, some members at my BNI chapter that, I'm, they become like really good friends of mine.
Yeah.
And we get together, we hang out with our families and that type of stuff. And so I think that value is one of the most unspoken things of BNI. Typically, it's more of like talked
Hmm.
about in financial rather than the
Yeah.
relationship.
Also, also, if you have people like this in BNI, like BNI would be very much exciting. I mean, you would never think through that, okay, I'm going to perform a task, I have to go to BNI. It will become part of your process. You would love to go BNI because you will meet people who are in general, let's say your friends now. They're not just your BNI chapter members. They're your friends first and then a BNI chapter member.
Yeah, very well spoken. Yeah, that's very well said.
Yeah. So, like in our podcast, we have a question segment in which we ask you a question, which my last guest asked. So I'll ask you a question. The question is, how do you let's say, what makes you different from your competitors? Like if somebody chooses Starway Roofing company, how would it make a difference from any other competitor?
Yeah, the biggest thing is going to be communication. I mean, for us, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Communication, the team, like the team that the people that are coming to your house, um, and like we really value ourselves from that communication from the time somebody calls in. Like, are they feeling valued? Are they feeling like they're being heard? Are they feeling
Mm,
like they're important? And and so that like that in that first phone call is really super important for us. But then even
yeah.
like if after somebody hires us, um, so one of the things that from more like a central Pennsylvania thing is we're
Mm,
Owens Corning Platinum certified contractors. And what that means is we can offer somebody a 25-year workmanship warranty. Like, it's just unheard of in the
yeah.
roofing industry. But we're at the highest level of certification with Owens Corning, which is a big deal. Like, it's a big deal to,
Yeah.
like, it's kind of the level that you're trying to get to as a contractor, and
That's a big
and
USP for sure.
it's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and just we're subject to random inspections. So those are
Mm,
just a couple of the reasons that with when it comes to choosing Starway, and why that we truly feel like we're the best fit, is we feel like we're going to serve you the best that anybody's going to serve you. And
mm.
I've gotten in trouble for saying that by some of my competitors, but I'm like, I do feel that way. So
No, the answer is spot on. I mean, the things which you talked about USP, I think that makes a lot of difference, especially for the new people who are looking for you, because uh, the instant trust is something which this USP gives you. So I think that's a great one. Uh, if you have to ask a question like which we are supposed to ask the next guest, what would that be? If you can give me a question for the next one.
so what exactly was the question? If I asked you a question
For the next guest, if one question, if you have to
for your
ask,
next guest, okay.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, it matters who the guest is, but my question would really be, um, to like your next guest would be that how like where do you see yourself in in 5 years from now? Because I think that's such an
Mm,
important concept that people don't do. And
yeah.
I interview a lot of people, because we're
Mm,
growing our company, and one of the things that I ask is like, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years from now? And most people have not even put that thought, like they don't even have that
mm,
thought. And you know, if you want to get somewhere, you have to plan where that place is and then work backwards from there. And
yeah.
I'm just a big believer in that. So I would just challenge your next guest to kind of to think about that.
Yeah. And one thing which I strongly believe in, especially with the new age entrepreneur, is they don't plan ahead. So, and that's one of the reason a lot of companies fail and they don't sustain for more than, let's say, a couple of years. So that's a great question. And if I hope the new guest which I have is a new entrepreneur, because if I ask this question, I think that then it would really make a difference.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I 100% agree with that, and you're right. That is why most companies fail, and most people don't achieve what they want in their life, is because
Mm,
they fail to plan.
yeah. Cool. I think those were all the
What's the quote?
questions.
The quote
Sorry.
is planning to or failing to plan is planning. There's a quote that is failing to plan is planning to
Mm,
fail. So if you don't plan, you are planning to fail.
yeah. You've got great quotes, Helmut, for sure. That even the
Yeah, I
last
love
one about
quotes.
the
So
falling thing, yeah, even this one. And this completely makes sense. If you're not planning something, you are actually planning to fail. So, yeah, both of
yeah.
the quotes I think will stay with me. So you're great with this one.
I'm, everything I stole everything from somebody else, but I read a lot of books, so there's always a lot
Mm,
of stuff in there. I like to read books, and I like to push myself, in surroundings where that, I mean, on this podcast, where
Mhm.
um, somebody from, you know, where are you located at?
We are in Delhi, India.
In India, yeah. So like somebody from around the world, getting on a
Mhm.
podcast is, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what we can do
Yeah,
in 2025.
yeah, that's exciting. I'm glad we were able to start because we are able to talk to a lot of people. Like I told you, right, we have had 20 podcasts and it has been a great time for us. Everyone have their new experiences, something which they wanted to share, and we get so many insights, and especially for BNI, like I think it helps us being a good BNI member.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it does, and I'm sure you're just hearing experiences from different perspectives, different industries, different cultures. I'm sure that's
Mm,
yeah. Good job. I gotta say, really good job. I mean, something like this is kind of something that a lot of people think they want to do is start a podcast and interview people on it
mm.
because they know they'd learn a lot. Myself included. But I've never done it. So good job for doing it. I think it definitely goes to show just
Thank
the
you,
the entrepreneurial and the energy that you bring into motivation. So yeah, really good job.
thank you so much, Amir. You're so kind. Thank you. Cool. I think we are towards the end of the podcast that we've asked all the questions, and I would really want to thank you, Elmer, for accepting the invitation so graciously and answering all the questions. And I'm sure that, of course, I am able to learn a lot, and the audience would be also able to pick a lot of things from here, and especially the quotations part. I would want to pinpoint those quotations when I'm putting up on the podcast because I think those are the great ones. Thank you so much for joining this one. I really wish you have a great journey ahead. And I think maybe the sky is the limit for you, and that's why the Starway is the name for you.
Likewise, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'll quickly click on the
All right.
stop button.